Hey there, friends. Sometimes stubbornness and ignorance combined can be a really bad combination. And in this case, the Democrats have not learned a thing, as it appears, from the election where there was an absolute red avalanche that consumed that entire party. No doubt you guys have heard by now about the transgender, and I say that in quotes, man who has been elected to Congress from Delaware. Of course, Nancy Mace brought all this to light whenever of course, she's being attacked big time right now. But as a woman who has been attacked, sexually abused, she's come out against this and said she is not going to stand for a penis in the woman's restroom. And I don't blame her one bit. Of course, she's being attacked right now as supposedly, she's anti-LGBTQASS. So whatever. She is fighting that right now, but she is standing her ground, and I applaud her for that. Well, as of today, Speaker Johnson came out, which this really surprises me because Speaker Johnson has not been a very conservative person. I feel like he has moved whichever direction the wind is blowing since he became leader. He actually announced a policy barring trans women, and they should have that in in quotation marks, because there is no such thing, but barring trans women from Capitol bathrooms. Speaker Johnson announced Wednesday that transgender women are not permitted to use bathrooms in the Capitol that match their gender identity, taking a stance on the hot button issue that has overtaken the Capitol in recent days. Well, the left is ready to light their hair on fire on this. They are absolutely going crazy. They have completely ignored the election results from just a few short weeks ago, and they're back at this identity politics, focusing on all the things that ran a lot of their true constituents who would have normally voted for them no matter what. The things that they have used and stuck to push their constituents away, they're back on it again. They've learned nothing. Look at this news report.
We are hearing from Representative-elect Sarah McBride of Delaware after one of her future colleagues introduced a resolution aimed at preventing transgender women from using women's restrooms at the Capitol.
Well, McBride recently made history as the first transgender woman elected to Congress. And here's CBS Philadelphia's Josh Sanders with more.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
She's the first trans person ever elected to a state Senate seat, and now the first openly transgender member elected to the U.S. Congress.
Delawareans reinforce that in our state of neighbors, we are fair-minded, and we judge candidates based on their ideas and not their identities.
But Sarah McBride's identity and the identities of transgender Americans became a flashpoint in the political conversation during the 2024 presidential election, with the Trump campaign and allies spending millions of dollars on anti-trans ads. Just weeks since her historic win, she's now become the target of South Carolina Republican Representative Nancy Mace, after Mace introduced a resolution to prevent McBride and trans women from using the women's restroom at the Capitol.
This is a biological man. He does not belong in women's spaces, women's bathrooms.
McBride responded to the resolution. This is a blatant attempt from the far right-wing extremists to distract from the fact that they have no real solutions to what Americans are facing. We should be focused on bringing down the cost of housing, healthcare, and childcare, not manufacturing culture wars. Delawareans sent me to make the American dream more affordable and accessible, and that's what I'm focused on.
Let me be very clear. This is not the first transgender member of Congress. This is a made-up term and a made-up concept. This is make-believe. I've called it before. I pinned it a year or two ago, calling them gender pretenders, because they are pretending to be a gender that they are not. It's no different than somebody pretending to be a kitten or a dog. If somebody had run a congressional campaign pretending to be a dog, or let's just say a cat, for instance, like it matters, right, and won, would Congress all of a sudden set up a litter box in the hallway for other trans cats to use the bathroom at their disposal? Is that where we would? I mean, that sounds stupid, right? That sounds ridiculous. Even saying it out loud sounds stupid. What's the difference? It's someone pretending to be something that they are definitively not. Like, not even possible. The moment that sperm hammered that egg, a lot of things happened. Hair color, eye color, skin color. I mean, it even set things in motion as far as height, weight for this person, what genetic abnormalities they might have. And oh yeah, sex or gender, right? All these things happened 9 months before somebody wrote it on a piece of paper to say what it was. This guy can call himself whatever he wants, and I don't care. I honestly don't care what this dude calls himself. Honestly, clearly he hasn't taken any puberty blockers, and luckily his parents didn't force him to do this when he was a young man. It looks like he probably has to shave on his coffee break before lunch to get rid of that 5 o'clock shadow, because this guy clearly does not pass very well for a woman. But let me be very clear. In a non-make-believe, non-fictional world, in other words, the real world that we all live in, truly live in. I know sometimes it seems to go off the rails a little bit, but we do live in the real world. And facts do matter. That thing doesn't exist. A transgender woman. It's woman or man. No trans whatever. There is no in between. There's no crossing over. You can't elect to do that all of a sudden. You are what you are. McBride is actually the first man with a mental condition called gender dysphoria to be elected to Congress. So yeah, he is a first. He's just not the made up term of trans woman. He is a man pretending to be a woman. Therefore, he is the first man with a mental illness defined in the DSM-5 book that has been elected to Congress. So there you have your first. Good for you, dude. I think his name is Tim or Tom. Since I don't know his name, I guess I'm just calling him. But yeah, he's going by Sarah now. But I want to ask the women out there something about this, because I'm hearing a lot of outrage. The blue-haired people shaved their heads, agreed to not have sex with men, and now they're fighting this cause now. It's the craziest, funniest stuff for me. But sometimes I want it to play out. You know what I mean? I want them to quit. I want them to stop. All right, we pacified you for long enough. We let you play your game. Let's just get back to normal now. And what I mean by normal is not normal, but not pretending that you're something that you're not. Not pretending that you have a normal brain function. You actually have a mental issue called gender dysphoria. And the problem is, and I've said this before, with us celebrating a mental condition, we are not allowing these people to get help. I'm curious. And I know there's HIPAA laws involved, so I will never know this answer. But does this guy receive any kind of therapy? He should, especially with the suicide rate of these gender pretending people. It's super high, 56%, I believe. With a suicide rate that high and no end in sight, because guess what? They're pretending to be something that they can actually never become. This person, to me, is on the radar for a potential suicide risk. And I think that's very, very a real thing that we need to be thinking about. We should not be celebrating his mental condition. We should be telling him, dude, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, and I'm sorry for you. And as another human being, I would like to help you get help. And someone should be helping this person. As long as you celebrate their shortcoming and mental illness, they will never get help. I've said this before. This might be his cry for help, coming out and saying, I'm a woman. And we're all like, nah, dude, you're not. But instead of trying to help him figure this out and get the help that he needs, everybody is celebrating this. And he might be thinking, dang, that was my way of asking for help because I don't know how to ask for help for my mental illness that I have. And y'all are celebrating it. So you might be making it worse by celebrating his condition. Yeah, he's got a big smile on his face and all that. But inside, how many people do you know of that suddenly end their own lives and you hear people say, yesterday they seemed fine. This dude seems fine. At what point do we start to worry about his own mental condition and attempt to help the dude out? And let me ask my minority friends something. And more specifically, let's talk about black people, because in this case, it seems a whole lot more of a bad thing when somebody does blackface, right? If somebody paints their face black for Halloween and goes as a black person, even if it is a funny thing of a black person that's happening right now, it doesn't matter the context, even if it's Halloween. You put yourself in blackface, suddenly black people are offended, right? It doesn't matter how you portray yourself, even if it were portrayed in a positive light. Doesn't matter. Nobody is allowed to paint blackface on their face, whether it's a joke, whether it's serious, or whether you're just doing it because you like the way it looks. No blackface for you, right? Isn't this kind of like woman face? How come nobody's outraged about that? Women are considered to be a protected group right now. How come it's not protected enough to protect it from woman face? A man running around pretending to be a woman, to me, should be offensive to women just as much as blackface would be offensive to black people. But I don't hear anybody talking about that. That's suddenly acceptable. How do you take two protected groups and say that acting like you're one to the point of going to try to look like them is okay, but the other one is not okay? You have to weigh that out for me and make it make sense, because maybe I just think too logical, and maybe I'm too black and white sometimes and I don't allow gray areas to exist, but that's just the way my mind works. I don't understand how you can be so hypocritical about one thing and make it, when they both are literally protected classes by the people on the left, but you're okay for those rules to get broken for one of those groups, just not the other. Now, Mace did suggest a resolution that was going to prevent any men or anybody with junk from entering a woman's bathroom. She was actually going to propose this as, I believe, a law if for some reason Speaker Johnson did not assist her in allowing this. And of course, Johnson did come out and allow that to be, right? In his statement, he said, "For anyone who doesn't know my established record on this issue, let me be unequivocally clear. A man is a man, a woman is a woman, and a man cannot become a woman." That said, I also believe that's what Scripture teaches, what I just said, but I also believe we treat everybody with dignity. We can do and believe all of those things at the same time. First of all, the fact that he is openly talking about this and going against the trans myth tells me that he really seeks the approval of Donald Trump. He would not have said these things prior to Trump winning. I truly believe that. I think Speaker Johnson would have certainly caved in this case and had a closed-door meeting with Nancy Mace to say, look, we gotta go along with this pretend game here. But he wants to be in Donald Trump's good graces. He wants to be part of the posse that gets to walk out at the UFC fight and act like one of the cool kids. Whatever, if that's what it takes to get this idiot's attention, and believe me, he's from my area. He's from Louisiana. So trust me, I am a very strong critic of Johnson. I wasn't before he got named Speaker, but a lot of stuff changed when he became Speaker. He got real soft and mushy. So hopefully his adulation of Donald Trump and his desire to be seen in good graces with Donald Trump changes the way he actually sees things and at least rules going forward. Now, with that being said, I'm not a big fan of him tying religion to this. The left is so anti-Christian and anti-religion. They hate it. They hate religion. I think what it does is it allows them to do things that are screwy, that a higher power wouldn't approve of, right? So they ignore or they run from religion. And in a lot of cases, by doing that, you know how the left works, they demonize anybody else who doesn't think exactly like they do. So they demonize people who are Christians. And by him tying Scripture to this whole trans thing, to me, allows them to make it look like, oh, see, look, he's just being crazy. He's tying this to religion again. This isn't about religion. And I'm not saying that I don't agree with what Johnson is saying here as far as tying it to religion and Scripture. My point is, this has nothing to do with religion. This is freaking common sense. We should not bring religion into something that is basic common sense and basic knowledge that the average 3 or 4-year-old child can answer you. If a 3-year-old child looked at this man with his fake boobs, he would go, that is a man in a wig. If something is so simple that even a 4-year-old child can get it right, it's common sense. It's not a scripture or religion thing. It's freaking common sense. But I want to make this really clear to those of you out there who are kind of on the fence on this. Let me explain something to you. It's not my responsibility to play along to your game. I don't care if it's gender pretending or whatever else somebody else might be trying to dream up and suddenly claim it as fact when I know better and then expect me to believe it or act it out with you. It's not my responsibility to play your game with you. I don't have to go along with you if I don't agree with that. It doesn't infringe on any of your rights, and it certainly doesn't infringe on mine when I refuse to play. When you expect me to play your game that most Americans, 99 point whatever percent, know is not true, then you now are taking my rights from me to make up my own mind and decide what I want to believe based on sheer common sense. Again, going back to the 4-year-old logic. I've known since I was 3 or 4 years old what a man was, what a woman was. I don't need you somehow or another now to tell me the rules have changed and I have to play by your rules now. No, guess what? You're going to play by my rules. I'm not going to pretend. I'm going to let you do your thing. I'm going to let you pretend. I'm not even going to interfere with your little game. You play over there. I'm not coming play with you, but you go ahead and play. I know I probably don't want you around sharp objects because I know you have a screw loose. And I respect the fact that you have chosen not to get help to tighten that screw up. But as long as you have that screw loose, don't expect me to dive into your little game and unscrew some of the screws in my own head to be like you. I'm not going to do that, and I'm not required to do that. In closing, what I would like to point out is, in this guy's defense, in McBride's defense, does he have a mental illness? Yes. Should he get help? Yes. But again, in his defense, he ain't the first congressperson or the first person to be elected in Washington, D.C. that has a mental illness. Trust me on this. This guy follows in a long line of congressmen and senators and even presidents who have mental illnesses, but were still chosen. So don't tell me that because someone got elected, somehow or another they're cured of their mental illness. No, we've seen it get worse when these people get in Congress. This is only going to get worse. This person has become the poster child of make-believe, and this is not the last that we have heard of that. One thing that I would like to ask is, where do we draw the line? Who's next? Who decides all of a sudden that they are a woman whenever they're clearly a man? And the left continues to let people stroll into the women's bathroom where little girls are. But I have a message for you, Congressman McBride. You want to impress me? You want to commit to the game? Go all in. You know, one way to minimize the threat in a women's bathroom by a man with junk in the front is to castrate him. You minimize the production of testosterone by eliminating the figs. You take those bad boys out and you lose a lot of your drive. So if you really want to commit to this fancy little cause of yours, get rid of the boys and let's see how things go from there. Because if anything else, you give somebody a taste of peace of mind. But I can promise you, no self-respecting dad is still going to let you go into that bathroom with their little girl in there.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's so horrible.